Hey, back at you again with week 7 case study. I believe the final one. I've looked ahead a little bit, but I guess I could be wrong. Um, this week I decided to review the case study of Kelly versus the Board of Trustees, 1994. And in this video, much like the other ones, we'll go over the court. I'm sorry, we'll go over the facts of the case, the overall story, uh, both sides of the story and what they were arguing for or against, the court rulings or findings, and then the implications for the athletic administrator or an athletic administrator. Um, so Kelly versus Board of Trustee. So basically, this has to deal with the University of Illinois, the main campus, and its decision to cut several programs uh, from their athletic program overall. But this one's more specific to the men's swimming team. And basically, what happens is the university cuts the men's swimming team, kind of like a twofold thing, trying to kill two birds, one stone. Basically, they had to get in compliance with Title IX, whereas their female population, undergraduates, was about 44%, and then their female graduates participation in athletics was in the 20s. So of course we know the Title IX, it didn't add up. There needs to be closer. So they had to get within Title IX rules. They got close. They got closer. What they eventually found out in the 80s is that they needed to probably going to have to cut some male programs so that this would balance out. Of course, we know Title IX, you have to have the balance between male and female sports, and then also the percentage of students there has to be close to the students' participation in athletic sports. And then also they were facing a financial shortfall as well, so they saw cutting a few programs helps them comply with Title IX, and at the same time saves them money. That way they don't have to just comply, but they also will get that money as well. Excuse me. So that's what occurred, and what they did is they got rid of some sports, mainly men's sports, and one of them was the swimming team. Now they weren't just over there willy-nilly just saying, hey, you're cut, you're cut, you're cut. No, they went off of a criteria of some participation in high school, because if they thought, well, if that's not a big thing, then it's not going to be too big of a thing in college as well. Overall popularity, people going to these events, chances to win a conference title, Big Ten conference title, chances to win national title if the national title was offered in that sport, which some of them they did not at the time. So they cut the men's swimming team, and what happens is the men's swimming team then takes them to court, and goes to a district court, and their argument. So let's go ahead and start on the argument sides. We'll start with the plaintiff, which is the swimming team. Now Kelly was one of them, but it's one of those where it's Kelly et al. So there's all of them are on the court case, but we just go off the first one. So they say, well, you're actually violating Title IX the other way now by not having the same number of sports offered. Your representation would be wrong for cutting these men's sports, especially swimming, more specifically swimming. And then they said you're also violating the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is the equal protection of rights. Their argument is that basically you cut men's swimming, but you still have women's swimming team, so it puts the men at a disadvantage in the term of one or the other. of having equal amount of sports one way or the other. They weren't thinking about percentages, probably didn't know about the percentages at the time. Um, and then also the equal protection under the law, 14th Amendment is, this was all based on sex, male or female, and they're saying, well, you're not equally protecting us under this law as well. They weren't protecting us by cutting this, and that we were losing opportunities and actually, I guess, essentially money if they got good enough to be an Olympian or on a professional swim team. I don't know if those exist. Um, with that being said, the university side is no, we're actually complying with Title IX more so than you think, based on percentages, and that we're also doing this in order to set ourselves up better financially, noting that the popularity of the sport had been declining and that they weren't bringing much revenue in with the swim team. But the main argument is Title IX. So basically, the case study, it was kind of long. Reading it was kind of tedious, but it gave the background of Title IX and how the University of Illinois had to comply with it. They went into that history. They also went into how certain things in Title IX were, how they were interpreted. They asked for a professional interpreter, on the subject, and they based off their studies and that person's studies, and ultimately in the end, they ruled that the university is actually complying with Title IX by doing this, and that the percentages don't add up. I mean, even if you kept the male swim team on there, and just them, not the other male sports that weren't, I mean, it would still be a disadvantage under Title IX. The percentages still wouldn't add up. And they also said even without the swim team, the percentages are still favoring male. Now, the plaintiff, or Kelly, and the swim team's response to this is puzzling. They say, well, if you guys are going to do that, if the federal government's going to, having to make us do it by percentages, then why don't we kick some of the females out of education arenas, like specific majors, kick them out because there's more, the ratio doesn't add up there either. And of course, this appeals court wasn't having any of that, and they kind of talked about that as well, and how it's not the same, and this is about athletics. And then finally, they ended up there at the end talking about that 14th Amendment too, equal protection. And basically, they said you are protected. They're doing this to comply with Title IX. So basically, their argument was null and void. It was quite a bit of reading for the decision, and quite honestly, before reading it, I didn't know which way it was going to go. It was a really interesting read. Implications for an athletic director: know your Title IX, know your percentages. If this kind of thing would pop up on your dinner plate, know where you're at percentage-wise, and that you are complying with Title IX, because if you're not, or if you're wrongly, or if you are accused of this, and your ducks aren't in a row, it could end up bashing you in the face pretty good. Know your students, know who you have, know all those things. And then, of course, the 14th Amendment that they stuck in there, from a civics standpoint, I teach civics in government. It's kind of weird. I wasn't expecting it. I guess I should have been. But that's, I guess, something else athletic directors need to know. Study your Constitution a little bit. There's only 27 amendments. The articles aren't too long. Just kind of brush up on that. And of course, that's easy for me to say because, well, I teach it every day. Anyways, those are the implications for AD. You need to know your stuff. That way you don't get sued, or that way you don't get brought to court and embarrassed, or know your stuff so that you are prepared. By the way, I hope you enjoyed the new perspective of my kitchen. We had been filming the other way. Hope you have a good day, good rest of the class. Thank you.